We are going to put together another bar graph using the data we have collected today from our balloon rocket activity. Now, we collected 3 sets of data. We collected data for time, we've collected data for speed, and data for acceleration. So let's go ahead and open my favorite graphing program. It's called Numbers, which looks exactly like this right here. If it's not on your dock, you can go ahead and open it using Finder. So you can go ahead and find it. Like I said, it's called Numbers. I already opened up the program over here, so I will open up my set of information and we will go ahead and get started. Okay, so like I said before, we are recording 3 sets of information for 3 separate trials. So let's go ahead and get started. So the very first thing I want to input is my information for time. And we have 3 separate trials for the time that we have recorded. And of course we measure time in seconds. And as you notice here, I put time at 2m, which indicates 2 meters. We measured the time for 2 meters, and we had 3 separate trials for that. Time at 4 meters, and 3 separate trials for that. And time at 6 meters, and we have 3 separate trials for that as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to input the information from our lab worksheet that we have collected today, and I'm just going to plug in those numbers right underneath their little sections here. So what I did, I just kind of put in some mock numbers. Obviously our class data will be a little bit different than the numbers you do see here, but make sure you do this correctly. As you can see, I put time at 2 meters, time at 4, time at 6 meters. On the left hand side I put trial, and then there was 3 separate trials, so trial 1, 2, and 3. Okay, once you are done with that, you will highlight this whole section for time and trials, and you will simply just hit the bar graph. Now what's going to be created and what's going to be generated is something called a staggered bar graph. Now staggered bar graphs are nice because what they do, they kind of label everything for you. As you can see in the blue here, it says trial 1, in the green it says trial 2, and then in the yellow it says trial 3. So you can visually see the difference between each trial just by kind of looking at the colors, which is nice. As you can see, it's labeled right now chart 5. I want to give it a proper title, so I will just simply click on that, and we should call this time for balloon rocket. Okay, so that's a pretty nice title for this set of information. And as you can see here underneath the x-axis, it already has everything labeled properly. So the only thing I need to do is label the y-axis, y to the sky. And since this set of information is for time, I want to label it time in seconds, this area right here as time in seconds. So I'll simply go to my inspector. I will say show title for value axis y, and I will then click on it and give it the title. I will call this time and then in seconds. And there you have it. Now of course, if you want to make things bigger, all you have to do is highlight and go from there. I will simply just make it at about a size 13 so it's easier to read, and of course you can change the colors to everything. So I'll just make that blue. So time in seconds, very easy to read. We know that at the 2 meter mark it took this set of information about 1.4 seconds. This one took about maybe 1.6, and you can kind of see that just by looking at the time on the y-axis over here. So pretty cool stuff. That is the information for time for our balloon rocket activity. We are not done. Now we need to focus in on the speed. So I'm just going to go back up to my information, and I will then go ahead and highlight all of the information for speed. Okay, so we have speed at 2 meters, speed at 4 meters, and speed at 6 meters. Very similar to the time above. And to measure speed, it's simply meters per second, so it's just a value of distance over time. So after you plug in all of your information, you're going to go back up to charts. You're going to do the exact same thing, and you will label your chart accordingly. I'm going to title this one Speed of Balloon Rocket. Okay, so that's a proper title since we measured the speed. And since we measured the speed, this information on the y-axis is a little bit different. It's not just time, it's meters per second since we are measuring the speed. So I want to give it the proper title of meters per second. So I am going to change that information to speed and then meters per second. And then I will highlight and change that color to green and make it bigger to about 13, just like we did above. So now we have speed meters per second. So now you can just kind of look at your bars, each bar, and kind of gauge how fast your balloon rocket went on the fishing string. And as you can see, just by my information, the farther the string was, the longer the string was, the higher the speed. So as you know, mass and distance plays a role in not only speed but acceleration as well. So just by looking at a bar graph, I can see that. So pretty cool stuff. And of course, we do have one more bar graph to create. So we have a bar graph for time. We have a bar graph for speed. Now, of course, we need to see what type of acceleration our balloon rockets had. So, just like you did with the other two sets of data, I'm going to highlight this last one. And this one's for acceleration. This one's for acceleration. So, I will go ahead and give it a title. Acceleration of balloon rocket. Okay. So we have three sets of information here. On the left-hand side, y to the sky, and the y-axis, we are measuring acceleration. So just like we have been doing, I'm going to come over here, say show title, and I am going to label it acceleration, and then meters per second squared. Actually, I want to change the size and color. We'll change the size to 13, and we'll give this a color of red. And this is acceleration in meters per second squared. And as you can see here, we have the different trials, just like we have up here as well. And this is how you create a successful bar graph, and this is how we can look at the different sets of information. And a staggered bar graph is a really cool way to compare and contrast data. So like I said, we've created a bar graph for time, speed, and acceleration of this balloon rocket. Pretty cool stuff. This kind of enhances our knowledge of the laws of motion, Newton's laws of motion. And when you are all said and done, make sure you print each and every single bar graph, staple it to your lab report, put your name on it, and turn it in. This is Mr. Zablocki checking out. Have a wonderful weekend, and as always, go Patriots.